Hey everybody, Pastor Vern for November 19th, 2020. It's a Thursday as we head our way into another weekend. We talked a little bit about the roofs and about the parapets that were part of those roofs. Is kind of our as we look at some of the things that were common in the Hebrew word. And we talked about some of that building material that they used. The Hebrew people learned a lot about building bricks when they were captive in Egypt. If you've ever watched, let's see, what is it? The Ten Commandments, I think, is the movie. Charlton Heston. It's very long, but it's really fairly accurate biblically. You see a place where they're making bricks. The Hebrew people, they would have a mud pit, and you would stomp around in the mud, and you would add straw to it as a binder, and that would make the bricks stronger. And then you go through this process of curing them. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. But it was a hard labor intensive process. You know, you would have men stomping in this mud and this water up to their knees, trying to get it mixed properly, and then they would add the straw in as this binder, and then they would have to dip it out of there and pour it into molds. And one of the most famous stories from the Bible is towards during the captivity as a punishment to the Hebrew people. Pharaoh said they would have to make bricks without straw, which would make it very difficult to make good bricks. And for every brick that was rejected, the process started over, and there was probably some punishment that went along with that. So that was a severe burden. But God did help them out on that, so they continued to make bricks in a fashion that got the job done. The bricks in that time were more square than they are oblong, mostly. And there's a couple of interesting things about them. One is they were stamped oftentimes with the country's ruler's name on them while they dried in the sun. And that was pretty common in Egypt to let them dry in the sun. It was a hot climate, and they could be baked in the sun. Otherwise, they had to be fired in ovens to harden them, clay pots and stuff we might be a little more familiar with that are put in a kiln. So that was the process, but it was very hard, dirty, exhausting work. And that was one of the material that they did bring some of that material back with them, or that knowledge, use those materials when they came back to Jerusalem. And so some of these buildings would have had some of this block brick built to them. And that's kind of carrying on with that theme. And then we're going to move into today just a little bit different, too, because we're going to talk about cisterns. Now, I guess I really didn't think about that too much. You know, I've been a farmer, and I grew up in a family where we've had responsibility for different building sites, and a lot of these building sites still do have cisterns in them. That most of them are not being used anymore because we've gone to a more modern well system. But water was pretty scarce in that part of the world, and wells were highly valued, as well as rivers, and to have. But Israel wasn't blessed with really either one of them that was very productive. So they relied on cisterns, which are ground tanks or reservoirs. They collect the rainwater in these tanks, and they didn't have a big rainy season either. So it was important for the water. They did have some places where they could fill them with spring water as well, but that was a little rare. So the many cisterns, they had these flat roofs. We've talked about that. The rain would run off the flat roofs. It would be collected in these cisterns underground, so that the water would be kept as good as possible. Some were as much as 100 feet deep into the ground. There was a lot of them around the temple in Jerusalem, I think they said, let's see, about 37 of them, one of them holding about 3 million gallons of water. You think about the ancient world, some of the engineering was far beyond what we imagined. And there was, of course, a lot of smaller cisterns that they would have all around the community for your local use. One of the other things that was kind of interesting about that is sometimes cisterns were used as jail cells, so to speak, or prisons. We read that Joseph in ancient Egypt was thrown into a cistern and held by his brother until they sold him into captivity into Egypt. And then we also see that there's some would tell you that in the time when during Jesus's trial that Herod probably held him in a cistern that would so that as a prison cell. They were dark, dank, nasty places to be when they didn't have water in them. So that's a little bit about that water system. And remember, it all kind of relates because we had both the flat roof, which the water feeds off of, the cisterns that hold the water for later use. All right. Well, that's just a little bit more about daily life in Jesus' time and the time of the ancient Hebrews. Kind of goes with what we've been talking about all summer. We've talked about the ancient Hebrews quite a little bit. I guess that's it for today. Take good care of yourselves. Watch out for others as best you can and stay safe. We'll talk to you later.